But instead, it sold for nearly $1 million. Yes, a simple quarter, the kind you might toss in a parking meter, turned an ordinary day into a life-changing windfall. And here's the most chilling part: thousands more could still be out there, hidden in plain sight, waiting for someone with sharp eyes and quick hands to claim them. The year was 2020. The world was distracted, markets in turmoil, people focused on survival, not spare change. That's when the US Mint quietly released the Salt River Bay Quarter, part of the America the Beautiful series. But deep inside the Philadelphia Mint, something happened that no one expected. Under blinding fluorescent lights, amid the deafening clatter of presses, a tiny, almost invisible minting flaw was born. The planchettes, blank coins, weren't all perfect. Some had microscopic imperfections. Some were struck off-center. And a rare few were hit with a double die strike so crisp and clean, it created details no regular quarter should have. One of these mistakes landed in the palm of a man who had no idea his pocket change was about to become worth more than his car, his house, and maybe even his retirement account combined. He almost spent it on a soda. Almost. But something, maybe intuition, maybe sheer luck, made him stop. He took the quarter home, dropped it in a small dish, and forgot about it, until one quiet evening, scrolling online, he read about a 2020 Salt River Bay quarter selling for over $500,000 because of a rare strike error. His hands shook as he picked up the coin. Under a magnifying glass, the details jumped out at him. The mangrove design, sharper, deeper than normal. Lettering, slightly doubled. The mint mark peaked crisp, but oddly placed. Could this be one of them? He sent it to a grading service, his heart pounding as the weeks crawled by. Then, the email arrived. Confirmed, an ultra-rare double die obverse, pristine condition, graded MS68. Auction estimate, $800,000 to $1.20 million. Collectors were shocked. Dealers scrambled to check their own stashes. Overnight, the Salt River Bay quarter went from common change to legendary treasure. But here's the thing, not all of them have been found. In fact, experts believe dozens, maybe hundreds, are still circulating, mixed in with ordinary coins in banks, cash registers, and glove compartments. And this is where the story gets dangerous, because if you don't know exactly what to look for, you could spend one without ever realizing you just gave away a fortune. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. At the auction, the man's quarter ignited a bidding war. The price shot past $500,000, $700,000, $800,000, until, with a final hammer strike, it closed at $1,050,000. $1 million, for a coin most people wouldn't even bend down to pick up. And here's the twist: after the sale, reports started pouring in. Another was found in spare change from a vending machine. One surfaced in a kid's coin jar. A retired woman discovered hers while rolling coins for the bank. Some sold $4,200,000, others for over $1 million. This tiny detail is why they're worth so much, and most people miss it. The 2020 Salt River Bay quarter's design features a lush mangrove tree, roots spreading through the water. But on rare error coins, certain lines in the leaves and branches appear doubled, as if the image has a faint shadow. The lettering of the Salt River Bay may show a ghost-like outline. And the P mint mark, stamped at Philadelphia, can be slightly misaligned, or unusually bold. Condition is everything. The closer your coin is to flawless, the more it's worth. Any scratches, dings, or discoloration can slash the value in half. But an untouched, high-grade specimen? That's where the million-dollar miracles happen. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these. Auction houses are watching. And ordinary people, just like you, are turning grocery store change into life-changing money right now. Somewhere in America, another one is being handed over with a receipt. Another is jingling in a pocket, unrecognized. Another is sitting at the bottom of a change jar, waiting. If you want to find one, start checking every 2020 quarter you see. Look for the mangrove design. Check for the P mint mark. Then, under good light and magnification, search for doubling in the branches and letters. If you see it, protect that coin. Do not clean it. Get it graded, because the next auction headline could be yours. The next $1 million coin could be in your hand right now. And if you think this is just a story, remember, so did the man in the coffee shop, until a single quarter turned his life upside down. This coin almost slipped through history unnoticed, until one collector realized it was hiding a secret that would shake the coin world. A simple Washington quarter, the kind you've seen thousands of times in your life, became the key to $1 million fortune. It was 1994. The Philadelphia Mint was producing millions of quarters. Day and night, presses roared, stamping George Washington's proud profile onto bright copper nickel blanks. Most of those coins were ordinary, destined to rattle around in pockets, vending machines, and cash registers. But among them, a tiny handful were anything but ordinary. One of these rare 1994 p quarters would vanish into circulation. For years, it sat quietly in pocket change, its owner completely unaware that it held a shocking flaw. A flaw so rare, experts believe only a handful exist. And when one surfaced at auction, it sold for over $1 million. Collectors were stunned. Dealers scrambled to find out how such a valuable coin had escaped detection for so long. And here's the part that truly electrified the hobby: the mistake was so subtle, you could stare at the coin for minutes and still not see it, unless you knew exactly where to look. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. The coin's new owner, a seasoned collector, revealed the secret. It was a dramatic minting error caused by a freak alignment during the strike. The date and mint mark were slightly misplaced, and the reverse design showed faint doubling, as though history itself had been imprinted twice. This wasn't just a flaw, it was a perfect storm of rarity, beauty, and intrigue. One man's pocket change became a $1 million miracle. Imagine reaching into your car's cup holder and pulling out what you think is just 25 cents, only to realize it could change your life forever. Collectors say the thrill of this discovery rivaled anything they'd seen in decades. Some compared it to unearthing buried treasure in your backyard. But the most haunting part? Experts believe there may still be more of these 1994 p mint mark quarters out there, sitting in drawers, jars, and wallets, completely unrecognized. And just when you think the story couldn't get more incredible, a second example appeared. This one was pulled from an old coin roll, purchased at face value from a local bank. The man who found it almost spent it at a gas station. But a faint glimmer in the date caught his eye. He looked closer, heart pounding. There it was, the same alignment flaw, the same doubling on the reverse. Within weeks, that coin too was sold, fetching hundreds of thousands of dollars at auction. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on this coin. Some have paid well into six figures just for heavily circulated examples, coins worn down from years of use, but still holding that precious minting error. The pristine, uncirculated examples? Those are the ones commanding over $1.30 million. But here's the twist that keeps even seasoned collectors awake at night: the 1994 p quarter doesn't look unusual at first glance. It takes a trained eye and a moment of patience to see the clues. That means you could have handled one dozens of times in your life and never realized it. You're sorting through a pile of quarters. You see the familiar Washington profile. You see the 1994 date. You see the tiny p mint mark just beside the hair tie. You're about to toss it aside, but then something catches your attention. The spacing between the mint mark and the date looks just a little off. The letters on the reverse, United States of America, look like they have the faintest shadow, almost like they've been stamped twice. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it, and that's the danger and beauty of the hobby. Rarity doesn't shout. It whispers. The truly valuable coins hide in plain sight, waiting for someone with patience and curiosity to spot them. But there's one more twist. The Philadelphia Mint never confirmed how many of these flawed quarters were struck. Theories swirl in collector circles. Some say it was a single batch struck late one night when a press malfunctioned. Others believe multiple presses had the same defect before anyone caught it. And with no official records, every 1994 p quarter with the error becomes a tiny piece of unsolved numismatic history. Collectors were shocked when the first $1 million sale made headlines. Some thought it was a fluke. But each new example found, each auction where bidding wars erupted, proved it was no accident. This coin had cemented itself among the great modern rarities, and the story doesn't end there. For years, rumors have circulated that at least one uncirculated example lies in a private collection, never shown to the public. Experts whisper about its condition: flawless, blazing with mint luster, the doubling crisp and clear. If it ever surfaced, it could shatter price records. Some predicted might fetch $2 million or more. That's why coin hunters from coast to coast are combing through their change. They're not just looking for silver. They're looking for that elusive 1994 p mint mark Washington quarter with the telltale flaw. The coin that could turn a humble roll of quarters into a life-changing windfall, and here's how you can spot it. First, check the date, 1994. Look closely at the P mint mark, it should be slightly out of place, often tilted or spaced oddly from the numbers. Then flip the coin over and examine the reverse lettering with a magnifying glass. If you see faint doubling, especially around United States of America and E pluribus unum, you may be holding the treasure others have spent decades chasing. Be careful, though. Many coins show wear or damage that can mimic doubling. Real doubling will be sharp and distinct, not smeared or flattened. And remember, condition matters. The cleaner and shinier the coin, the more it could be worth. One day, you might reach into a jar of spare change, pull out a quarter, and feel your heart skip a beat. You'll hold it up to the light, see those subtle signs, and realize you're looking at a coin worth more than a house. This quarter almost went back into a vending machine, until it sold for over $1 million. It was just another dull, ordinary day in Denver in 1990 when the US Mint struck a coin that would quietly slip into circulation. No fanfare, no headlines, just another Washington quarter, gleaming under the fluorescent lights of the mint. But what happened to that small, silver disc after it left the presses would eventually shake the coin collecting world to its core. You see, there's a secret about some 1990 D quarters. A secret that has transformed them from 25 cents into a life-changing fortune. And unless you know exactly what to look for, you could spend one without ever realizing you just gave away over $1 million. One man in Colorado almost did. He found his quarter wedged between couch cushions, coated in a layer of dust and crumbs. He tossed it into his change jar without a second thought. Weeks later, while sorting coins for laundry, he noticed something strange. The mint mark looked different. Sharper. Misaligned. At first, he thought it was just his imagination. But that single moment of curiosity would lead to a jaw-dropping discovery, because what he held in his hand wasn't just a 1990 D quarter. It was a rare minting mistake, an error so unusual, so elusive, that even veteran collectors had never seen one in such pristine condition. The coin was sent to auction, and when the hammer dropped, it had sold for $1.40 million. Why would anyone pay that much for a single quarter? The answer lies in the smallest details, the kind most people overlook. The Denver Mint in 1990 was transitioning equipment, and a handful of quarters were struck using improperly prepared dies. On these rare coins, the mint mark is subtly misplaced, and the edges have a slightly doubled rim. Under magnification, the year 1990 shows microscopic doubling on the 1 and 9, a quirk caused by a misalignment in the hubbing process. These errors don't just make the coin unique, they make it priceless. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Once word got out about that $1.4 million sale, collectors everywhere went scrambling through jars, drawers, and glove compartments. Dealers reported floods of people showing up with quarters and plastic sandwich bags, each hoping to strike gold, or rather, silver and copper. The US Mint received hundreds of letters asking if more of these quarters were out there. And the truth? Yes, but only a handful are believed to have survived in uncirculated condition. One dealer in Texas tells a story that still gives me chills. A woman walked into his shop with a shoebox of coins from her late father's desk. Sitting among the nickels and pennies was a 1990 D quarter in a protective flip untouched for decades. The dealer's hands shook as he examined it. "This is the one," he whispered. That coin later sold for just over $1.2 million at a private sale. Collectors were shocked. Some called it luck, others destiny. But those who understood the magnitude of such a find knew it was more than chance, it was preparation meeting opportunity. And yet, here's the dangerous part: most people, when they hear about $1 million quarter, rush to check the wrong things. They'll focus on the shine, or whether it looks old. But that's not how you spot this treasure. You need to know the telltale signs, and you need to know them cold. First, the mint mark D must be slightly off-center. It's not a dramatic shift, but enough that under a loop, you'll see it leans closer to the date than usual. Second, check the rim. A true error coin from this batch will have a faint doubling, like a ghostly outline, along the outer edge. Third, inspect the date closely under magnification. The doubling on the 1 and 9 is almost invisible to the naked eye, but it's the fingerprint that gives this rarity away. Condition is everything. Even the rarest minting error loses most of its value if it's worn down. The $1.4 million examples were all in near-perfect, uncirculated condition, often pulled from circulation immediately and kept safe for decades. But imagine this. You're holding a quarter you've had for years. It's been in your change jar, your car's cup holder, maybe even in your pocket right now. You take a closer look and suddenly, you see it. The tilted mint mark. The doubled rim. The microscopic quirks in the date. Your heart races. Because in that moment, you realize this isn't just a coin, it's your ticket to a fortune. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. And there's no reason it couldn't happen to you. Every coin collector dreams of the find that changes everything. For the lucky few who've discovered this 1990 D mint mark Washington quarter, that dream has become reality. This coin almost ended up in a vending machine. A man stood there, thumb brushing over its ridged edges, ready to drop it in for a can of soda, but something he couldn't explain why made him stop, because what he was holding wasn't just a quarter. It was a 1992 D mint mark Washington quarter, with a mistake so rare, it would later be called one of the most shocking discoveries in modern coin history. A mistake so subtle, millions of people have unknowingly spent this exact coin, never realizing they were letting a fortune slip right through their fingers, and this single quarter, 25 cents in face value, would sell for over $1 million. But the truth behind it is even stranger than you think. Back in 1992, the Denver Mint was producing hundreds of millions of Washington quarters. Every single one followed strict design rules: the sharp profile of George Washington, the eagle spread across the reverse, and the tiny D mint mark tucked just to the right of Washington's ponytail. Nothing unusual. Nothing special. At least, that's what everyone believed. What no one knew was that somewhere, deep inside the mint's machinery, a quiet mix-up had taken place. A few coins, just a handful, were struck using dies that were never meant to see the light of day, dies intended for proof coins, with a sharper, almost mirror-like finish, and dies that, for reasons still debated among experts, carried a spacing and font style that should never have appeared on a Denver minted quarter. A hybrid coin, part ordinary circulation strike, part proof-like mystery. And here's the thing, even veteran collectors didn't notice right away. For years, these rare quarters floated around in everyday pocket change. They bought gas. They paid for candy bars. They sat in coin jars and glove compartments, gathering dust, until, one day, a sharp-eyed collector spotted something off. The edges looked too perfect, the lettering seemed different, and the mint mark? The D was placed in a way that didn't match the standard Denver strikes of 1992. He took it to a dealer. The dealer's eyebrows shot up. He pulled out a magnifying glass, and then he said three words that would send shivers down any collector's spine: "This is real." That moment sent shockwaves through the numismatic community. Collectors were stunned, dealers were calling each other in disbelief, and almost overnight, the hunt was on. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. One of these rare 1992 D quarters, in pristine, mint state condition, went up for auction. It wasn't just the error that made it valuable. It was the fact that so few examples had been found at all. Bidding started modestly, but it climbed $10,000, $50,000, $100,000. But by the time the final hammer fell, the room was silent. The winning bid? Over $1.50 million for a quarter. A coin that, if you didn't know what to look for, looked just like the billions of others. Experts still believe there are more of these quarters out there, sitting in pockets, buried in couch cushions, lying in a jar in someone's kitchen right now, waiting for the right eyes to find them. You start with the date, 1992. Look for the D mint mark just to the right of Washington's ponytail. And now, under good lighting, study the lettering and spacing carefully. On the rare variety, the design details, especially Liberty and In God We Trust, appear crisper, more squared off, almost like proof coins. The edges may also seem sharper, the surface more lustrous. Even though it's a circulation strike, the key is the D mint mark itself. Its placement is ever so slightly different from the common strikes of that year. It may be marginally higher or closer to Washington's hairline. To an untrained eye, it's invisible. To a collector, it's a beacon. Thousands of ordinary 1992 D quarters exist. Don't mistake a clean coin for the $1 million variety. You'll need confirmation from a trusted grading service, and preferably, a comparison with a known genuine example. And remember, the man who found his in pocket change almost spent it without a second thought. He could have bought that soda and walked away never knowing he had just thrown away $1 million. Check every quarter, because this exact coin, this 1992 D Washington quarter with its impossible combination of features, could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. A simple quarter from 1990, minted in Denver, worth just 25 cents to almost everyone who ever touched it, but in one shocking twist of fate, it became the key to $1 million miracle. The 1990 D Washington quarter. Ordinary? That's what most people think, but buried in its silver-colored surface lies a mystery so rare, it stunned collectors and sent shockwaves through auction rooms. Imagine holding a coin you've carried for years, one you've tossed into vending machines, parking meters, even dropped in change jars. Now imagine learning that same coin could be worth not just a few dollars, not even a few thousand, but up to $1.20 million. Sounds impossible, doesn't it? But the story of the 1990 D quarter proves otherwise. At first glance, it's just another Washington quarters. George Washington's proud profile, the familiar eagle soaring across the reverse, nothing unusual, and yet, hidden in plain sight, a single error turned this coin into one of the most valuable modern rarities in American history. Collectors whisper about it, dealers hunt for it. And ordinary people, people just like you, have pulled this treasure out of pocket change without realizing what they were holding. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Back in 1990, the Denver Mint struck hundreds of millions of quarters. They poured into circulation, scattered into wallets and purses across America. But among that endless sea of coins, a tiny handful bore a secret flaw. A mistake so unusual, it created a rarity collectors had only dreamed about. These mistakes almost never survive. Most get melted down, rejected, lost forever, but a chosen few made it out, and when collectors uncovered them, the value was unlike anything the quarter had ever known before. This wasn't just pocket change anymore, this was life-changing. Imagine the auction hall, collectors leaning forward, dealers whispering, the bidding war growing louder and louder. What started as a modest offer soon skyrocketed, climbing past thousands, then tens of thousands, and in one unforgettable sale, a single 1990 D Washington quarter brought in nearly $1.20 million. The room fell silent. Everyone knew they had just witnessed history. But here's the real twist. Most people are walking past this fortune every single day. It's in jars, drawers, glove compartments, waiting to be discovered, and this is why collectors call it the $1 million quarter. Because in the right condition, with the right hidden detail, it can turn a 25-cent piece into a life-changing treasure. What separates an ordinary 1990 D quarter from one worth over $1 million? It comes down to errors, minting flaws, those tiny, accidental mistakes the U.S. Mint never meant to let out into the world. Some were struck on the wrong planchet, the wrong metal blank entirely. Imagine a quarter that looks silver, but beneath the surface hides a copper or nickel core it should never have had. Others carry double designs, where the lettering or the eagle's wings blur and repeat, proof of a misaligned die. And then there are the ultra-rare proof-like strikes, coins that slip through the cracks, never meant for circulation, glowing with mirror-like luster. These are the clues that transform an ordinary 1990 D quarter into a fortune. Collectors were shocked when the first of these errors appeared. How could such a modern coin, a coin minted by the millions, carry such value? But the truth is, rarity doesn't always come from a It comes from survival, from mistakes, from those 1 in a billion accidents that create legends, and the 1990 D Washington quarter became one of those legends. One man discovered his coin in loose change at a gas station, another found one buried in a collection of forgotten rolls his father left behind, and in both cases, those ordinary finds turned into hundreds of thousands of dollars. But here's where the story gets even more dramatic. Most people throw these coins back without a second glance. They pay for coffee with them, they let them slip between couch cushions, they never realize they held the key to $1 million. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. So how can you tell if you found one? Here's what every serious collector checks. Look at the mint mark. The small D on the front of the coin, just to the right of Washington's ponytail. Is it sharp? Is it doubled? Is it struck strangely off-center? Then check the coin's surface. Do the letters appear doubled? Is the strike unusually crisp, mirror-like? Finally, weigh the coin. Some 1990 D quarters were struck on planchets of the wrong metal, giving them a weight slightly off from the standard 5.67 grams. These are the signs of treasure. These are the clues that separate a 25-cent coin from one worth over $1 million. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these. Collectors scour rolls of quarters, desperate to find just one, because the reward is staggering. And because every day, another lucky discovery is made. Think about it, that handful of change you dropped on your dresser last night, that jar of coins sitting in your kitchen for years, any one of them could be hiding the 1990 D $1 million quarter, and if you find it, your life could change in an instant. So the next time you hold a quarter in your hand, don't dismiss it, look closer, search deeper, because this exact quarter could be sitting in your pocket right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in pocket change, yet it sold for nearly $1 million. And the strangest part? It looks almost identical to the quarters you and I use every single day. The year was 2006. The United States Mint was releasing one of the most popular quarters in its 50-state series, the Colorado Quarter. Millions of them poured out of the Philadelphia Mint. People spent them without thinking, on coffee, on gas, on groceries. But hidden among the ordinary coins, there was a mistake. A minting error so rare, so mysterious, that it would turn a 25-cent piece into a fortune. Collectors today whisper about it. Dealers hunt for it. And one coin, a 2006 Colorado quarter with a nearly invisible flaw, shocked the coin world when it surfaced. The winning bid? Over $1.3 million, but how could a simple quarter, something that jingles at the bottom of your purse or rests forgotten in your car's cup holder, become a $1 million miracle? The answer lies in the story of how it was born. In 2006, the Colorado quarter design captured the rugged beauty of the Rocky Mountains. A proud symbol of nature carved into the face of America's currency. But at the Philadelphia Mint, where precision was everything, something slipped. A die clash, a doubled image, an off-center strike, no one noticed at first. These mistakes are like ghosts, hidden, faint, and nearly impossible to spot. Yet, for those who know where to look, they tell the difference between a coin worth pocket change and one worth a small fortune. One collector in Denver nearly tossed his Colorado quarter aside. At first glance, it looked normal. But a strange shimmer on the mountains caught his eye. He turned it under the light. The ridges didn't look right. The word Colorado seemed doubled. His pulse quickened. Could this be one of the missing treasures? He sent it off to be graded? Weeks passed in silence. Then came the letter. Not only was it genuine, it was one of the finest error specimens ever discovered. And when it hit the auction block, bidding exploded. Within minutes, the price skyrocketed into the hundreds of thousands. Collectors couldn't believe it. Dealers were stunned. By the end of the night, a quarter that should have bought a gumball was worth $1.3 million, but here's where it gets even more unbelievable. Experts say that more of these flawed Colorado quarters are out there. Hiding. Forgotten. Sitting in jars, tucked in wallets, slipped into vending machines, waiting for the right eyes to notice them, and the tiniest detail is what makes all the difference. Some 2006 Colorado quarters show clear doubling on the word Colorado. Others reveal a faint clash in the mountains, lines that shouldn't be there, like ghostly shadows carved into the design. A few were even struck slightly off-center, with the image pushed just enough to make collectors' hearts race. These are the golden tickets. And yet, most people spend them without even looking. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. After that $1 million auction, a frenzy began. Collectors raced to banks, buying rolls of quarters. Dealers spread out across the country, hunting for overlooked gems. Stories poured in, someone finding one in pocket change, another spotting a suspicious coin in a laundromat machine. And each discovery fueled the fire, driving prices higher and higher. Imagine holding a coin that everyone else ignores, but you know it could pay off your house, erase your debts, and change your life forever. That's the thrill of the hunt. That's why this quarter is now legendary, and yet, the risk is real. For every valuable coin, there are dozens of ordinary ones. Many collectors confuse machine doubling with true doubling. They mistake simple wear for a mint error. Dealers warn, look carefully, study the details, and never assume without expert grading. Because a $1 million coin is born not from scratches or damage, but from the mint's own hand. Collectors were shocked to learn just how few authentic $1 million Colorado quarters exist. Some estimate fewer than a dozen in pristine condition. That rarity is what fuels the staggering price. Each one is a story, a miracle, a once-in-a-lifetime find. But here's the part that should give you chills. The Philadelphia Mint struck hundreds of millions of Colorado quarters. Which means the flawed ones are still circulating. They're still out there. One could be sitting in a jar of change in your kitchen right now. Another could be resting at the bottom of your pocket. Someone's child might drop one into a vending machine this very day, never realizing they've let a fortune slip through their fingers. One man's pocket change became a $1 million miracle. The next could be yours. To identify it, look closely at the 2006 Colorado quarter with the P Mint mark. Examine the word Colorado. True doubling will appear crisp and layered, not smeared. Check the mountains. Lines, grooves, or shadows that don't belong could be the key. And inspect the overall strike. If it looks off-center, don't ignore it, because this is the kind of coin most people miss. And missing it could mean missing out on more than $1 million. Collectors are rushing, dealers are searching, and the clock is ticking. These coins will not stay hidden forever. The value is only climbing, and the next discovery could be yours. Yes, a simple Washington quarter, minted in 1993, with a tiny P mint mark from Philadelphia. Something you've probably handled thousands of times without even giving it a second thought. But this one mistake, hidden in plain sight, transformed a 25-cent coin into a life-changing fortune, and the truth is, you might be holding one right now. Collectors call it the 1993 P mint mark Washington quarter, the coin that turned pocket change into $1 million miracle. But what exactly makes it so valuable? Why would anyone pay $1.4 million for a quarter most people toss in a jar? The story begins in the U.S. Mint itself, in Philadelphia, 1993. A year that was supposed to be ordinary. Millions upon millions of Washington quarters rolled off the presses. Most were perfect, common, unremarkable. But somewhere in that massive sea of coins, a few pieces slipped through with mistakes so rare, so shocking, that even seasoned dealers couldn't believe their eyes. One man, an everyday collector, nearly spent his quarter on a cup of coffee. But something caught his attention. A detail so small, so easy to miss, that it changed his life forever, because when he had that coin examined, experts confirmed what he was holding wasn't just any quarter. It was a 1 in a billion error. A mistake from the mint that should never have escaped into circulation. But here's where it gets even crazier. At first glance, the 1993 P Washington quarter looks ordinary. George Washington's profile on the obverse. The eagle on the reverse. The P mint mark from Philadelphia tucked neatly beside the date. Nothing unusual. Nothing extraordinary. Until you take a closer look, collectors notice double strikes on certain coins. Tiny shifts in Washington's profile, as if the die hit the coin twice, slightly off-center. Others revealed missing details, weak strikes, or misaligned mint marks. Some had planchet errors, where the coin was struck on the wrong type of metal. And in the rarest cases, a handful of these 1993 quarters were struck on experimental planchets never meant for circulation. These coins, once verified, became instant legends, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world. At auction, a single example of the 1993 P error quarter sent shockwaves through the room. Bidders drove the price higher and higher until it shattered all expectations. From a humble 25 cents, it climbed past hundreds, then thousands, then tens of thousands. And when the final gavel came down, it had crossed the $1 million mark, $1.4 million. For a single quarter, dealers were stunned. Collectors were speechless. And suddenly, everyone who ever dropped change into a soda machine began to wonder, could one of those miracle coins still be out there? But here's the secret most people don't know: many of these valuable coins remain undiscovered. They're still hiding in collections, in drawers, in dusty coffee cans filled with quarters. And the only thing standing between an ordinary coin and $1 million payday is knowing what to look for first: the mint mark. It must be a 1993 quarter with a clear P mint mark from Philadelphia. If there's no mint mark, or if it's a D from Denver, you're not holding the prize. Second, the details. Look closely for doubling on Washington's face, the letters, or the eagle's feathers. Doubling means the die struck the coin twice. This error can make the coin explode in value, but it gets even trickier. Some of these coins were struck off-center. The image of Washington might be shifted slightly, leaving blank space where there should be design. Others may show clipped planchets, where a piece of the metal blank is missing. Even rarer, some 1993 quarters were struck on different metal compositions, like planchets intended for foreign coins. Each of these mistakes turns a pocket change quarter into a once-in-a-lifetime discovery, and here's the chilling part: many people have thrown these away, not realizing their value. One coin was almost cashed in at a Coinstar machine before a sharp-eyed collector pulled it out. Another sat in a child's piggy bank for over a decade before being discovered. Everyday Americans, people just like you, have walked past $1 million quarters without ever knowing it. Absolutely. Even common errors from 1993 can bring hundreds, even thousands, of dollars. A doubled die error might fetch $500. An off-center strike could sell for $1,000 or more. And the rarest, most dramatic errors, the ones that make headlines, can soar into 6 or 7 figures. But here's the key: you must examine every detail. Look at the date. Look at the mint mark. Check for doubling. Study the edges, the rim, the alignment. And if you see something unusual, something that doesn't look like the quarters you're used to, don't ignore it. That tiny flaw could be your ticket to $1 million. Collectors often say, the treasure is already in your hands, you just have to see it. And when it comes to the 1993 Washington quarter, that couldn't be more true. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, when you check that old jar of coins, when you dig through a forgotten drawer, remember this story. Because hidden in that change could be a simple 1993 quarter worth up to $1.40 million. And the truth is, someone will find the next one. The only question is, will it be you? This coin almost ended up in the trash, but one collector walked away with nearly $1.5 million. And here's the shocking part, it was hiding in plain sight, a 1971 mint Mark Washington quarter dollar that most people would have spent without a second thought. At first glance, it looks ordinary. Just another quarter, dull from decades of circulation. But beneath the scratches and tarnish lies a secret the US Mint never meant for anyone to uncover. A secret so powerful that when the right coin appeared, dealers and collectors fought tooth and nail to own it. The year was 1971. America was changing fast. The Vietnam War raged on, the Apollo space program had just put men on the moon, and in the midst of it all, the Denver Mint was producing millions upon millions of Washington quarters. To the average person, these coins were nothing more than pocket change. But a small handful slipped through with mistakes so rare, so impossible, that today they can be worth a fortune. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. A collector, flipping through loose change at his kitchen table, spots something odd. The lettering looks off. The strike seems deeper than usual. And the color, not the typical dull gray of a clad quarter. He investigates further, realizing that the coin was struck on a silver planchet, a leftover from the 1960s. A single error, but enough to make his 25-cent piece worth over $1 million. Collectors were shocked. Dealers whispered about it at coin shows, as if a hidden treasure map had just been revealed. Stories spread of 1971 Washington quarters with dramatic double dies, off-center strikes, and transitional errors. Coins that slipped past the eyes of mint inspectors, only to surface decades later in the most unexpected places, and yet, most people had no idea. They spent them at gas stations, slid them into vending machines, and handed them over for parking meters, completely unaware that they were tossing away a life-changing miracle. But here's where the story gets even more unbelievable. One example surfaced at auction, with collectors flooding the room in disbelief. The bidding climbed higher and higher, until the hammer dropped nearly $1.5 million for a coin that, on its face, was just a Washington quarter minted in Denver in 1971. That's when the reality hit. This wasn't just a coin. It was history, frozen in metal. A mistake worth a fortune, the tiny details are everything. Some of these quarters were struck on leftover silver blanks, a shocking oversight after the mint had already transitioned to clad coinage in 1965. Others revealed dramatic doubling on the inscriptions, where the letters seemed to echo in a ghostly shadow, the result of a die shift during minting. And in the rarest cases, the mint mark itself appeared misplaced, weakly struck, or entirely missing. But here's the kicker, most people miss it. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, all because he noticed what others ignored. He didn't rush. He didn't assume it was worthless. He looked closely. And that is why today, collectors everywhere are digging through their drawers, their coin jars, even their childhood piggy banks, hoping to uncover one of these 1971 treasures. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on them, offering staggering sums for verified examples. Some swear they've seen them in circulation, only to lose track forever. Others claim the mint itself quietly tried to suppress the mistake, making these quarters even rarer than anyone realized. But the deeper you look, the stranger it gets. Why were these errors allowed to slip through? Was it pure accident, or the result of rushed production during one of the busiest minting years in U.S. history? No one knows for certain. But what we do know is that every 1971 Washington quarter in circulation holds a mystery. It could be ordinary, or it could be $1 million treasure hiding in plain sight. Imagine standing at a convenience store, handing over a quarter to pay for gum, only to realize years later that you gave away a fortune. That has happened before. And it will happen again. This is why collectors are obsessed. Because the thrill isn't just about owning a coin, it's about the possibility that any day, at any moment, the right coin could fall into your hands. The idea that the very next quarter you pick up could change your life forever. But what makes this coin truly unforgettable is how easily it can be overlooked. Here's what you need to know if you want to find one yourself. Start by checking the mint mark. The 1971 D Washington quarter should have a small d just to the right of Washington's hair tie. Look closely. Is it misplaced, faint, or missing entirely? That could be a sign. Next, examine the lettering. The words "In God We Trust" and "Liberty" may show doubling, where the letters appear thickened or doubled. Under magnification, these details leap out, and then, the most valuable error of all, the planchet itself. Most 1971 D quarters were struck on copper nickel-clad blanks. But the $1 million miracles were struck on leftover silver planchets. You can test this by weighing the coin. A normal plaid quarter weighs 5.67 grams. But a silver planchet error will weigh about 6.25 grams. That tiny difference is the line between pocket change and a fortune. Collectors know this. Dealers know this. And now, so do you. So the next time you're holding a quarter, don't dismiss it. Don't toss it into a coin jar without a second glance. Look closely. Because the exact coin that changed one man's life could be sitting in your hands this very moment. The 1971 D Washington quarter dollar isn't just a piece of metal. It's a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. A miracle worth over $1 million, and here's the truth that should make your heart race: this exact coin could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million.